1 week away from Election Day. Wow. I know. And tonight, new polling suggests this thing could be getting tighter all the way to Election Day. Welcome to the Kelly File, everybody. I am Megyn Kelly. 7 days out, a brand new ABC News Washington Post tracking poll shows a virtual dead heat. Look at this. Donald Trump taking the lead in this poll at 46% to Hillary Clinton's 45%. Just over a week ago, she had a 12-point lead in this tracking poll. 2016, everybody. 2016. I know, it's like this, right? It's like, wait, what? It comes just days after the dramatic news that the Clinton email investigators are back to work on the case. And in the days that followed, it would appear that is, contrary to many headlines you may have seen yesterday elsewhere, that is having an impact on this race. Take a look. According to the poll, support for both candidates had been climbing in recent weeks. That is until this weekend. While Trump backers stayed steady, Team Clinton suffered a drop of 8 points when it comes to voter enthusiasm. In moments, we'll take a deep dive into all the latest numbers with Larry Sabato and Karl Rove. But we begin tonight with our chief political correspondent, Carl Cameron, reporting night from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where Donald Trump just held a rally. Carl?
Hi, I'm Megyn, and I warned you 10 days ago that the polls always tighten in the final days and that this one was going to go right down to the wire, and it certainly looks that way. Trump today put a perfect illustration of what's become his 1-2 punch on the closing argument. He began today in Pennsylvania, Valley Forge, as a matter of fact, and there he gave a speech about his plans to repeal and replace Obamacare. Not once did he mention the FBI emails. He was trying once again to give voters cause to vote for him. Then he came here to Wisconsin, and at this speech, he unleashed on Clinton and the emails. He went through his contract for the American voter, itemizing the various things he's going to do. But the Trump campaign is preparing to unload on Podesta tomorrow, and he gave a little taste tonight. Watch.
John Podesta has been caught saying, we have to dump all of those emails. Can you believe this? That's WikiLeaks. And he also said, to me, this made a big statement. John Podesta, I tell you what, if he worked for me, I would fire him so fast. He is such a nasty guy. I would fire him like The Apprentice. John, you're fired.
The Trump campaign's success in the polls and his discipline on the campaign has a lot of Republicans a lot more optimistic than they've been in the last few weeks. But tonight he's in Wisconsin, a state where he trails in the polls. This morning he was in Pennsylvania, a state where he trails in the polls. And a lot of GOP members think, you know, Ohio and Florida is really tight. Maybe he ought to be emphasizing more time, money, and ground game in those really close battleground states, and maybe leave some of these on the edge to themselves for a while. He's trying to expand the battlefield, but there's a question about whether his organization and money is going to pull him over the top on his must-wins like Ohio and Florida. Megyn?
Wow. Carl, good to see you. Spent a lot of time in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, back when I was practicing law. And what I remember is the place I stayed, the front desk girl was the same girl who would bring you your room service, and she would bring your bag up for it. I mean, it was like that poor woman worked so hard, that one hotel. It's a small town, and there's news to discuss. Okay, so we have big changes when it comes to the Fox News electoral outlook, just 7 days out. Our decision desk made 4 changes, four today, to its map. 2 in Donald Trump's favor, 2 more in Clinton's direction. Trace Gallagher has the latest live from our LA newsroom. Trace?
Megyn, this time last week on the Electoral College map, Donald Trump appeared down and out. This week, he's still down, but far from out. And a big reason is movement in what many consider the grand prize battleground state of Florida, which the Fox News decision team is now moving from lean Democrat to toss-up. Hillary Clinton's support in Florida has remained very steady, but Donald Trump has now picked up a couple of points. For Trump, Florida is a must-win, and now at least it looks like he could win. Fox News is also moving Nevada from lean Democrat to toss-up. The decision desk acknowledges that Democrats have an 8-point lead in early voting in Nevada, but Republicans are making up ground, and if the GOP can boost Election Day turnout, the Silver State could go red. It's been more than a half-century since Alaska voted for a Democratic presidential candidate, but the decision desk has now moved it from solid red to leans red. although our team admits the polling in Alaska is a bit all over the place. Finally, North Carolina now shifts from toss-up to lean Democrat. That's based on Clinton leading in 21 of 23 North Carolina polls listed by Real Clear Politics. So here's the bottom line. If Clinton wins the states rated solid Democrat, along with states leaning Democrat, she's the next president because she only needs 270 to win. If Trump wins the solid Republican states, along with the states leaning Republican, he gets 174 electoral votes. If he then wins all the toss-up states, that adds another 77, giving him 251. He would still need to flip at least one, likely two states that lean Democrat. Difficult, but certainly not out of the question.
Wow. Trace, thank you. So with the map and that kind of play, where exactly should these candidates be focused? Joining me now, Director of UVA's Center for Politics, Dr. Larry Sabato, and Fox News political contributor and former Deputy Chief of Staff to President George W. Bush, Karl Rove. Great to see you both. So, Karl, if you were advising Donald Trump right now, where would you tell him to go? That's the most valuable asset he has right now, his time.
Yeah. I call it 7 and 7. He's got 7 days, and he's got to cover 7 states, which is a very large number of states to be focused on as you come down the end. He has to win Iowa, Florida, and Ohio, where he leads in the Real Clear Politics average. So he's ahead in all of those in the RCP average, but that only gives him 244. He's also got to win North Carolina, which Mitt Romney won, and which in the RCP average he's behind. That still gives him only 259. I'd spend less time in Ohio and Iowa, where he's ahead, and more time in Florida, which is absolutely critical, and North Carolina, where he's behind. But it's still not enough. So he's got to pick 3 of these states: Nevada, New Hampshire, Colorado, Wisconsin, Virginia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. That's roughly the order, starting from the one where he's closest to the one where he's furthest away in the Real Clear Politics average. I hope he's got better data, so he may have a different order of these, but he's got to find enough. He's got to pick 3 of these states. Any combination of winning 2 of them will give him the White House as long as he carries these other 4.
What are the odds of that right now? Just as a political prognosticator, what kind of battle is that, would you say, Karl?
That's uphill. He's still coming from behind, and he's got to not be diverted. Don't worry about Georgia. Count on Arizona either coming home. Don't be diverted by her going there. Don't worry about Utah. It's either going to come home or it's not. It's probably going to come home. Don't spend your time in New Mexico. You don't have a chance of winning there. Focus on the 7 states that are absolutely critical to win, 4 that we know about, and 3 that he's got to make a decision about. He can't get there by simply winning the 4 that we know about. He's got to figure out where else he's spending his time. He's got to think about it this way. He's got maybe 25 to 28 events that he can have between now and the election, and he's got to spread them out in states that are that get him 270 electoral votes, and 7 is a big number to be spending your time in 7 days, but that's what he faces.
And he just has to be relentless about going there. Larry, you see this ABC News Washington Post tracking poll, and now Trump is up, and she was up 12 points about a week ago. I mean, it's really stunning. I know that you look at the averages of all polls. You don't look at one poll or the other, but does this tell you anything?
Well, sure. I mean, frankly, Megan, I'm pretty upset with you. You didn't send me a whiteboard. I'm at a great disadvantage to Karl.
I know you got a lot of free pillows.
I know I got some free pillows, but teachers always have to buy their own supplies, and it really cheeses me. But anyway, thank you. As far as the Washington Post ABC poll, I'd be interested to hear what Karl thinks. But any poll that shifts, I believe it's a total of 15 points or somewhere, 13 points in a week and a half. That's a questionable poll.
Oh,
now could he be
shade at ABC
up?
and WAPO?
Well, I'm just saying what I really believe, which is what I always do. In the polling averages, of course, it's gotten closer because partisans have been coming home to Trump, and that was happening even before Director Comey did what he did last Friday. But believe me, his actions have sped that up. And, 2 points is substantial. Let me point out 4 years ago at this very moment, the RCP polling average had Mitt Romney up 0.8%. Well, a week later, he lost by 4 points, 5 million votes to President Obama. So while I use polling averages, I also admit that they can be off too. Nothing's perfect.
And because you're saying 2.2, because that's what she's up in the average of all polls there, which is what Larry looks at. What do you make of it, Carl? Because I know Team Trump feels heartened by this poll, by the IBD poll, by the LA Times poll, you know, all of which are showing momentum for Trump and that, in fact, Trump may be up right now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me set the record straight. Sabato wants a free whiteboard. I bought my own whiteboard, Sabato. I bought my own. They're not given to me.
You're a
I worked hard for them. I worked hard for them. I love how you academics live it in your ivory towers, want free this and free that, but by God, I earned this by the sweat of my brow. Right here. In fact, I got two whiteboards, man. I got two of them.
It's worth every penny.
Yeah.
Well, send one to me.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders would have given me a free whiteboard.
Hello, can we get back to the news?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
I agree with Dr. Sabato. I'm a little bit dubious about a poll that goes 13 points in 10 days. I want to see a little bit more. Look, I don't trust the LA Times USC poll. It uses a weird methodology that they're not even willing to step forward and defend. I do think the race has been closing. It closed before last Friday. I think we will see on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of this week how much it's closed once we get past the Halloween weekend. But it is closing, no doubt about it.
Wow. Great to see you both. Christmas is coming. I think I know what I'm getting these guys. Well, the polls are not the only problems for Team Clinton today, as new headlines on Hillary's emails lead one former FBI leader to compare the Clintons to the mob. Former FBI Assistant Director James Kallstrom is next, along with former Obama Deputy Press Secretary Bill Burton. Plus, calls are growing for a major investigation over at CNN after a high-profile contributor is accused of helping Hillary Clinton cheat at 2 presidential debates. Tonight, we have an exclusive interview with the former CNN chief, John Klein. Don't miss this. Where did you get it?
You know, as a Christian woman, I understand persecution, but I will not sit here and be persecuted because your information is totally false. What you're telling the American people,
email.
Well, Podesta's emails were stolen. You're so interested in talking about stolen
material. So you deny it?
The Kelly File is
7 days from right now, polls will be closed in more than half of the states. We may be close to knowing the next president, but there will still be one very big and ugly question out there. Fox News digital politics editor Chris Stirewalt raised it in his column today when he wrote that, quote, "The odds the next president will serve a full term are probably not as good as you would like." With Hillary Clinton facing multiple investigations and Donald Trump facing a big civil trial and maybe more, things could quickly get dicey for our new president-elect. Joining us on that, former FBI Assistant Director in Charge, James Kallstrom, along with former President Obama Deputy Press Secretary Bill Burton. But first, Trace Gallagher has more on the issues here. Trace?
Megyn, if Hillary wins the White House, Republicans are already promising to launch investigations. Utah GOP Congressman Jason Chaffetz, who chairs the House Oversight Committee, calls it a target-rich environment. Or as Fox News political analyst Chris Stirewalt says, quote, "The options available to Republicans in Congress for the next potential Clinton impeachment are a veritable salad bar of fixins." And I'll tell you what, Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson thinks the email scandal will continue to haunt Hillary. Listen.
You know, you cannot conceal, you can't destroy them. And by the way, that statute is penalized by fines, imprisonment, and disqualification from holding any office of the United States.
And House Speaker Paul Ryan believes there's a mandate to keep investigating Clinton, considering that only about a third of voters say she's honest and trustworthy. If Donald Trump becomes president, there stand to be many trips between the White House and the courthouse. Mr. Trump is still defending himself against charges that his Trump University was nothing more than a real estate course intended to bilk students out of money. Trump has also threatened to file lawsuits against the women who have accused him of sexual assault. And VP nominee Tim Kaine says Trump's campaign comments are also in the mix. Watch.
When Donald Trump went on the air publicly and said to the Russians, hey, go ahead and hack away, and if you find something that helps me out, let me have it, we impeached a president for that, what he has encouraged Russia to do.
So far, only President Nixon has left office early. Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton were both impeached by the House, but acquitted in the Senate. Megan.
Trace, thanks. Well, our next guest not only says folks at the FBI are upset with the way this Clinton investigation was handled, he's comparing the Clinton clan to organized crime. James Kallstrom is a former assistant director in charge of the FBI. Jim, good to see you.
Hi, how are you?
So you say, that actually this blows Watergate away in your view, what the Clintons have done, what Hillary has done. Why? I mean, get specific on that.
Well, the pay for play. I mean, the foundation that gives less than 6% of the money to charity, according to reports that I've read. The way they treated the Haitians, I think, is a classic example, where they collected all this money and very little of it went to Haiti. Mm-hmm. And this goes on and on. I mean, it's just and look at WikiLeaks. I mean, look at the emails themselves and the complicity of staff, and it just goes on and on. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the lying is just.
You have not given Director Comey a pass on this show,
no.
And certainly not in July when he decided not to indict her because he thought he had the goods. But what do you make of what he did this time? Did he do the right thing?
Yeah, I've been pretty tough on Jim because I think the investigation was not a real investigation. There was no grand jury, no subpoenas, no search warrants. And that's not an FBI criminal investigation. That's not the way they're conducted.
Why? Why would he do that?
I just think he could, for whatever reason, he didn't stand up to the politics of this thing for some reason. I can't get in his head. Okay. I thought he was a great guy. I think he's done the right thing now. I think he had no choice. He's between the rock and a hard place. I mean, for the New York office and other offices to be, giving him this information about what's on Anthony Weiner's computer, it's got to be something very substantial.
It's a code red moment.
Yeah, it's a code red moment. I mean, they only had the metadata initially. They have authority to look at certain things about Weiner, and his activities.
Yeah, and they see the metadata there, and they see
the metadata, and they see all this metadata, and they probably look at a few of these things just to get an idea of actually what's there. Does it involve Weiner, and they see some smoking guns or some big explosions.
So they bring it up. I mean, they bring it up actually to the second in command is what we're told. And then some time passes and suddenly Comey's like, wait, what? And he comes out. Now, do you believe, because, some people say the FBI has gotten a black eye. They got a black eye in July when Comey didn't indict, but then came out and said she was a liar, basically. Yeah. And then this time around, the roles are reversed.
Yeah, but let me be clear about one thing. The FBI getting a black eye is not the agents. It's not the guys that work there and the girls that work there and the ladies that work there. It's the people that run the organization for whatever reason did what they did. But I think now he had no choice. I mean, if he's getting this major information, what is he going to do? Talk about it after it leaks out? Talk about it, who knows? Who knows what that even is?
Yeah, the men
and having him involved,
they're working hard, and their morale is low because they're getting dumped on, and they can't defend themselves.
Exactly.
I want to ask you this: you're a Trump supporter. You admit he's made a lot of mistakes. You are past those mistakes. You're still voting for Donald Trump. Explain why.
Yeah, Megan, I'm not a politician. I've never come out for any politician. I have actually a very low regard for most of them. But I consider myself a patriot. I mean. Maybe that's a bad word in today's age, which is a shame, quite frankly. But I think he would do a better job at keeping the United States what the United States is supposed to be. Getting our culture back. Our culture has been demeaned tremendously. Look at our education system. I mean, just look at everything about the country. We're in huge debt. We're not doing things right. We're not dealing with the world right. We're not dealing with our military, our police officers. We're treating them like crap. I mean, we're just not doing the right things, and I think he'll do a much better job than Hillary. She's got too much baggage. The Democrats are to blame here because they put someone up to run for president that has a long trail of lying. I mean, she went to the Andrews Air Force Base when the bodies came back from Benghazi, one of which was a son of a dear friend of mine, and told those families, look, we're going to arrest the guy that made the videotape. He's the person responsible for the death of your sons in those coffins right there.
Yeah, we've had family members testify to that. She denies it, but family members, I mean, one dad has contemporaneous notes, in his record book.
No, that's what she did. I mean, how can we elect someone that would do that thing?
Great to see you, Jim.
Okay.
As always. Joining me now with reaction, former Obama White House Deputy Press Secretary Bill Burton. Bill, good to see you. Snazzy with the glasses tonight.
Good to see you, Megan.
I like that look.
I'm going blind.
So you could see, I mean, there's already talk of who's going to get impeached. It's like, who's going to get elected? Who's going to get impeached? How soon can the hearings begin?
Look, you know, after you hear all this stuff about Republicans and how they want to have hearings on this and hearings on that, how about a hearing on job creation or wage growth or education or something that actually matters in the lives of Americans? After this election, the email issue will have been so litigated that the American people will be really ready to move on to the issues that actually affect them in their lives. And if they see a Washington, if they see a Republican Congress that is continuing to focus on something that doesn't affect their lives, I don't think that it's going to play out well for them.
But it's
and
like a character issue,
impeached,
right? I mean, in the same way that you look at Trump and his history with...
Well,
let me make the point and then you respond. But in the same way you look at Trump and his alleged history with women, and you say, all right, if he did those things, that reflects on who he is as a person, and that's something we need to know. You look at her, and if she's lying and misleading and dodging and weaving with the FBI and surrounding herself with people who do the same, it's a character issue for her.
Donald Trump joked about sexually assaulting women, and then a bunch of women came forward and said that he actually had groped them and been inappropriate with them. Yes, that is a character issue. Hillary Clinton has said that it was a mistake for her to do exactly what Condoleezza Rice, exactly what Colin Powell had done, exactly what the Bush administration had done by having their emails hosted on a private server.
Why didn't Huma, if you well know, if the FBI were investigating Barack Obama when you were working for him, before he was president, when he was running, and they said, we need all your documents, anything he's forwarded you, anything that relates to this private server he's keeping in his Chicago home, this is in fantasy world, you would have gone, you would have checked your home computer, you would have forked it over, Bill. Why didn't she? You understand what people say, I don't understand or trust these people or these decisions.
Right. Look, it's hard to comment on the warring factions inside the FBI who are leaking and counter-leaking and saying all sorts of things about who forked over what. We have a small piece of information from Director Comey that he stumbled into the presidential election to release at best. And so I don't know what Huma gave up or what she didn't give up, but that's not the point. The point is that this email situation is the exact same thing that Republicans had been doing for years before, and the American people are done with it. Like, yes, Trump supporters are not.
What Hillary did is
not
the same.
Yes, there are folks who don't like Hillary Clinton, do not.
Okay.
It is exactly the same. It's exactly the same.
No, what do you mean? With Colin Powell? Is that what you're talking about? It's not the same. It's not the same at all, and that's been disputed.
With Powell and with Bush and his administration. Next time Carl Rove's on, ask him about all the Republican emails that were destroyed.
You well know that nobody had a homebrew server and did all of their business exclusively on it, and then destroyed documents after they received a demand letter from the FBI and FOIA requests and so on and so forth. I don't have time to litigate it.
Megan, actually, they did the exact same thing, and Karl Rove was under investigation at the time.
Okay. Even if that were true, which it isn't, two wrongs don't make a right. Pointing to other people's bad behavior to justify other bad behavior never works. But I can see that the Hollywood Hills are calling. I want you to go enjoy that with your snazzy glasses. And we're going to see you again before Election Day. Great to see you, Bill.
See you, Megan.
So as we get closer to the votes being counted, some folks on the left are going hard on Mrs. Clinton's critics. We'll show you how the president handled that one with Sheriff David Clark and Democratic strategist Julie Roginski. Plus, CNN says it had nothing to do with one of its best-known contributors sneaking questions to Hillary Clinton ahead of a debate. Tonight in a Kelly File exclusive, we'll speak with the former president of CNN about what he thinks on how this situation is being handled. Don't go away. You got the WikiLeaks released a March 12th Podesta email showing you messaging the Clinton campaign with the exact wording of a question asked at the March 13th CNN TV1 town hall debate. Where did you get it?
Megyn Kelly.
1 week out from election day, did we mention that? And President Obama is making his final push for Hillary Clinton, recently sitting down for an interview with comedian Samantha Bee and suggesting that Mrs. Clinton's critics are driven by sexism. Take a listen. Gender into this race. Last month he told attendees at a Clinton fundraiser, quote, "There's a reason why we haven't had a woman president. We as a society still grapple with what it means to see powerful women." Joining me now, Sheriff David Clark of the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office and Julie Roginski, Democratic strategist and a Fox News contributor. Great to see you both.
Good to see you, Megan.
I love when the Sheriff wears his hat. Sheriff, your thoughts on the president's comments?
Well, you know, Barack Obama for 7+ years has played the race card that every time somebody criticized him, it was because he was black, and it scared off a lot of Republicans. So now they're going to switch and try to play the gender card. The problem is the American public is tired of this class warfare. The reason why they don't like Mrs. Bill Clinton is not because she's a woman. It's because she's dishonest and because she is hiding something. She's hiding the truth. She tries to play herself off as a victim, like she's Little Red Riding Hood, but she's more like the big bad wolf. As soon as you turn your back on you, she'll bite you. Now, look, this is politics. It's a contact sport. It's not for the faint of heart. My response to what President Obama said is if she can't stand the heat, she should get out of the kitchen.
Julie?
Well, first and foremost, I think you just proved my point, Sheriff. And, you know, you and I were outnumbered last week, and I love you, but she's not Mrs. Bill Clinton. She happens to be Hillary Rodham Clinton, who's her own person and is running as her own individual. She's a former senator. She's a Secretary of State. She's not Mrs. Bill Clinton, and I think you just encapsulated exactly why a lot of women think that
it's not my job to give you her bio.
It's not her bio, but it's also not your job to assume that she's just a little woman who's married to
She
Mr.
has run with that name for a long time.
Well, she's run for that name because she happens to be married to the former president, but she's certainly not Mrs. Bill Clinton.
She should embrace it.
Well, no, she actually shouldn't embrace it. She should embrace the fact that she's a very accomplished lawyer in her own right, a very accomplished woman in her own right.
Let me ask you this, Julie. Let me ask you this. Do you think there's something to the notion that many Americans find the idea of a female president somehow threatening? Do you think there's anything to that?
You know, unfortunately I do, and it's a shame because I think, but you have polling showing, poll after poll showing, you have Anna Greenberg, who's a very prominent pollster, saying that her numbers went up when she focused specifically on women's issues, whether it's standing by her man when she was First Lady after the Monica Lewinsky scandal, or working on traditional women's issues, or even working as Secretary of State for Barack Obama, who's a man, but her numbers are not so great when she's running for something, when she's working in health care reform, when she's become a principal and taken on roles that are traditionally men's roles. And I think, unfortunately, I hate to say this because as a woman who is living in the 21st century, I would hope this is not the case, but empirical data shows, unfortunately, that it is the case.
Mm-hmm. You know, Sheriff, I remember 8 years ago, when Sarah Palin was on the Republican ticket, they were doing full articles about how she was going to balance her situation of having, I think, 5 kids and being vice president. It was just like, basically, for lack of a better term, screw you for writing that, right? Because nobody was wondering how Barack Obama was going to balance having 2 kids. Yep. So it's,
Megan,
it's still there to some extent.
you took the words out of my mouth.
Go ahead.
When you mentioned Sarah Palin, because the way the Democrats treated Sarah Palin was nothing short of shameful. Also, the way they treated Condoleezza Rice when she was the Secretary of State, they did the same thing. So all of a sudden, when it's one of those women who gets close to the White House, then it's okay to trash them. But when it's one of their women, then they try to play the victim card. America's tired of that stuff right now. She should stand on her own 2 feet. Take the heat. Look, this is for the presidency of the United States. Nobody's going to feel sorry for her.
Right.
Nobody's going to back down. I'm glad Donald Trump's not handling her with kid gloves.
Right. Julie, that is true that there was Sarah Palin endured a lot of sexism when she was running. And the women's groups, I mean, the silence was deafening. They were not there for her, you tell me, because she is a Republican.
No question, and I agree with you 100%. Sarah Palin got the short shrift in many ways.
So you understand why Republicans 100%. Are like, boo-hoo, we're not listening to your complaints now. Where were you when one of ours was being attacked?
First and foremost, some of us were there for Sarah Palin, not specifically on her policies towards women or things that would help women. But some of us did feel that Sarah Palin got incredibly short shrift, especially when you said when people were saying how is she going to balance having children and she had a newborn.
And put her on the cover, I think it was of Newsweek, in a photo shoot she did for a biking magazine.
Yep. But listen, I'm not sure she should have posed for that necessarily for that picture. But
come on.
But having said that, look, I mean, there's no question that if you went to the Republican convention, as all of us did, and you saw some of the buttons being handed out, and you saw some of the things that were said about her, she was called the B word, she was called the C word, she was called all sorts of names that I've never heard a man being called, and you can't say that's anything other than sexism, unfortunately.
All right, I got to leave it at that. Give you the last word. Great to see you both.
Good to see you.
Still ahead, Senator Harry Reid has taken heat in the past for some wild claims about Republican candidates, and critics say he's at it again. Mark Thiessen has an update on that. Plus, new questions tonight about CNN's debate questions and exactly who leaked them to Mrs. Clinton ahead of some of the presidential debates. Former CNN chief John Klein is here in a Kelly File exclusive right after this break.
CNN.com.
Developing tonight, growing calls for an investigation at CNN after a high-profile contributor was accused of leaking debate questions to the Clinton campaign not once, but twice, as it turns out. The accusations are aimed at Donna Brazile. She's the current acting DNC chair and a former CNN contributor, former as of about a couple days ago. CNN argues the fault is Brazile's and Brazile's alone, but that's not good enough for some critics who are arguing that the network's very integrity is on the line. Watch.
So CNN, and I called for this a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to do it again, needs to absolutely conduct an internal investigation by an outside firm to see where this cancer exists. And it wouldn't be hard to do. CNN's a proud organization. It's been around for 36 years. There's a lot of good journalists there. They don't deserve to be painted with this broad brush. But unless they do an internal investigation, integrity is going to be a big problem for that network unless they show they're taking this seriously.
That's Joe Concha of The Hill. Joining us now in a Kelly File exclusive, John Klein, the former president of CNN U.S. and current CEO of TAP Media. John, great to see you.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for being here. So what about that? Because CNN has not said in any way that it's conducting an investigation. In fact, what they seem to be intimating is we don't need to. We think we know what happened and we're okay with our people's behavior. But the American people may not be okay with the behavior.
Well, I think CNN has come to the conclusions they have because they've done an investigation. And they may not want to talk about all of the internal workings, but I can tell you that nothing is taken more seriously within the walls of CNN, both when I was there, which is 6 years ago, and today, than issues around the integrity of the place. Mm-hmm. And they sweat a comma in a report. I mean, they have an in-house unit headed by an executive vice president, which does nothing but try to anticipate problems or investigate problems.
You get a report like this. When we saw the first WikiLeaks disclosure that she said, sometimes I get the questions in advance, and she forwards the exact, I mean, it's verbatim, the exact question that Roland Martin first proposed asking. He shortened it in the actual debate, but what we have on paper is him sending it to CNN saying, here's what I want to ask, and it was exactly the same. That's got to be DEFCON 5 at CNN.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't rest until you got to the bottom of that.
So they clearly think that Roland Martin did that one.
Yes, they do.
They've made that pretty clear.
Oh, yes.
Including journalists like Jake Tapper and others who were involved. Yep. And the journalists, as is their right and what they should do, is protect their own integrity and defend it. So then another debate comes out with Anderson Cooper and Don Lemon, and it happens again. They seem satisfied that nobody at CNN leaked that one to Donna, that maybe one of the questioners at the town hall leaked it. I haven't seen any proof of that.
They think that Donna ran into one of these questioners because she had spent the day handing out water in Flint and may have run into somebody.
Well, that's a possibility, but how are we supposed to accept that as fact?
Well, they are more worked up about the issue than Joe Concha is. I mean, they have much more at stake than anybody in making sure that their reputation is pristine. Right. So I can only presume that they have run this down to the ends of the earth as far as they're concerned and to their satisfaction. And I believe Jeff Zucker when he says that he finds it disgusting.
Yep.
I don't think it's surprising when you've got a partisan surrogate in your midst as a paid contributor.
Yeah, but you're assuming she's an ethical person.
You are.
That's cheating
but
what she
did.
But
at the end of the day, I hope this can be the death knell for these surrogates that all the news networks employ because it's predictable. As a viewer now, I've just been a viewer for 6 years. Mm-hmm. It's boring. We know what the Punch and Judy puppets are going to say every time.
Yes, but
maybe
you
there
also
can be a
know,
fresh start.
And I know this is the case of CNN too, because I'm friends with a lot of those guys. That debate room is inviolate. Nobody can get in there. Leaks would be unthinkable, right?
Yeah.
And so the problem is something did happen in this circumstance, and you're not anticipating that Donna Brazile is somehow going to get her hands on your question and leak it. So I don't. You tell me why CNN should have anticipated that.
Oh, I think that.
Why do we just have to fire the partisans as a result?
I think at the end of the day, you know where people's loyalties ultimately lie. And they don't lie ultimately.
Yeah, but just because they're loyal to, in this case, the Democrats doesn't make you a cheater. She cheated.
I'm sure that under pressure, she felt that she had something that could be helpful to the person or the cause that she is most loyal to.
Sure she did.
By the way, she leaked this to the Hillary camp during the primaries. We don't know that she did not leak things to Sanders. WikiLeaks
I think we can intimate.
only because WikiLeaks has spoon-fed us the Hillary stuff. Is there Sanders stuff? We don't know.
I haven't heard from the Sanders people on this, so perhaps they've got some enormous secret that they're keeping. But the other question is, how many other questions were leaked? We only have a little snippet. And so what if Joe Concha's suggestion and that of others that they need an outside investigator to come in and CNN so we can trust CNN, so we don't have to worry, so the journalists can say, look, outside investigator said it wasn't us.
I think if you're CNN, you're saying we've got great internal mechanisms. If this story dies down, we don't need to have a long, drawn-out internal investigation that's just going to create more headlines and more doubt. We're satisfied. The proof will be, are there no more leaks?
John Klein, great to see you.
You too.
Still ahead, Harry Reid, foot in the mouth. Again, don't go away.
The word's out that he hasn't paid any taxes for 10 years. Let him prove that he has paid taxes, because he hasn't.
That was Senator Harry Reid in 2012 making claims about Mitt Romney which were completely made up. In fact, here's how Senator Reid responded when he finally got called out on his dishonesty almost 3 years later.
So no regrets about Mitt Romney, about the Koch brothers, because some people have even called it McCarthyite.
Well, they call it whatever they want. Romney didn't win, did he?
He's a charmer. Now, critics say Senator Reid is at it again, this time alleging coordination between Trump and the Russians, suggesting the FBI has explosive information that must be made public. Joining us now, American Enterprise Institute scholar and Fox News contributor Mark Thiessen. Mark, well, who in their right mind would doubt the man?
Of course, no. I mean, look, Harry Reid is an unapologetic liar. He went on national television, was confronted with the fact that he had smeared Mitt Romney incorrectly, and he didn't care one iota about the fact that he had lied. He said, well, he lost, didn't he? He cares that Romney lost, not that he lied.
Right.
He will say anything. I mean, this is a guy, he's the perfect spokesman for Hillary Clinton. He actually lies so often, he makes Hillary Clinton look like a paragon of honesty.
I think it's not so much that, because at first I saw this and I thought, what moron would believe that? Because he lies, and he admits he lies, and he doesn't care. But it's not about like some random person hearing it. It's about the media saying, oh, this is a good idea to spread, and then not playing that earlier clip, and people walking away saying, oh, okay, I saw it on the news. Trump and Russia like this.
Yeah, and of course then CNN comes out and reports that they went and talked to the FBI investigators, and there is no evidence of a connection between Trump and Russia. So what Harry Reid said, oh my gosh, what Harry Reid said is actually not true. Surprise, surprise. And this is a guy, I mean, this is a pattern with him. This is a guy who in 2014, he got his super PAC, his PAC, that leadership PAC, got a dozen Pinocchios from the Washington Post for putting out false ads. This is a guy who got a dozen Pinocchios. It's hard to get a dozen Pinocchios.
What did they give him the triple Pinocchio maximum rating?
For repeated campaign ads that got 4 Pinocchios. He said the Koch brothers were largely responsible for global warming, more Pinocchios. He said that when we were on the air, when the Obamacare rollout came out, talking about the stories of people who were losing their health insurance, he went on the Senate floor, all lies. I mean, he is a serial liar. And so, this guy's going to go back to the Senate. And look, he says things like, well, the word is out. What does the word is out mean? I mean, we talked about this when he said that about Mitt Romney. I could say anything. I could say Harry Reid beats his wife. The word is out. I have no proof, but hey, let him prove that I'm wrong. Harry Reid is taking money from the mob. Word is out. I have no proof, but go ahead. Prove me wrong, Harry Reid. You can say anything about politics when you do that.
Harry Reid is the illegitimate son of Geppetto. The word is out.
That is true.
Mark, good to see you.
Thanks, Megan.
We'll be right back. Weeks from today, my new book, Settled for More, hits bookstores across the U.S. Yes, this is the first I've held it. The thing has been secret for months and months and months. This is the only copy, Sean. This is it. He wants to know what's in it. Woo! Just a little peek.
Oh, great. I can't wait to read the O'Reilly chapter.
Stand by. You'll love it, because the O'Reilly chapter. And you're in there, too. If you are sick of the cupcake nation we live in, if you're sick of the helicopter parents, the safe spaces, and the stifling of free speech we're seeing in America, you'll love it. And if you'd like to hear about how a kid who grew up in upstate New York, the daughter of middle-class parents, wound up right here at the Fox News Channel, #1, Fox News.
Isn't that you grew up in Albany, right?
Yep, Albany and
so
Syracuse,
awesome.
with no money. And now look at us, Sean, working with such great people like the man on the other side of this camera.
I'm overpaid.
Okay, pipe down. I'm selling my book. It's all in there. I get deeply personal in it about my family, my life, some tough times I had on the way to my current life. And I hope maybe it will inspire some of you who may be feeling unhappy to think about how you can settle for more too. Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. Pre-order it now. We'll talk about it together on November 15th. Here's Sean.